Welcome to Manhattan Project. This is day, I don't know, this is the first review we've done since we did the 1 month thing. So earlier this week at the Toronto Film Festival, I saw the movie Mother amongst many, many, many other films that I'll be reviewing over the next couple weeks. It is Darren Aronofsky's new movie starring Jennifer Lawrence and Javier Bardem. Here is the vlog footage that I hope I have of us seeing it. So the movie follows Jennifer Lawrence's character as she continues to restore this large, kind of secluded house that her and Javier Bardem live in. He's a writer and a poet that has kind of writer's strike, and she, meanwhile, is just trying to fix the house up when, of course, some unexpected guests come, played by Michelle Pfeiffer and Ed Harris. They, at first, seem to be just kind of annoyances, but then perhaps start to show themselves as maybe something more sinister as the plot elevates and progresses. Take a look at the trailer.
Help you.
You will never forget Mother.
Make them go.
A head trip so extreme it should carry a health warning. The most WTF movie of the year.
That was intense.
Mother. Rated R.
Well, my expectations going into Mother, because there's no one around here to ask me about them, unfortunately, were pretty high. I had heard, actually, it had premiered a couple days earlier at the Venice or Telluride Festival. The Toronto one was like its second screening, and I'd heard kind of mixed things. But overall, I'm a big fan of Darren Aronofsky. I love Pi, love Requiem for a Dream, love Black Swan. I thought that Noah was decent. And obviously, Javier Bardem and Jennifer Lawrence, two of the best actors of their generation right now. So overall, room for excitement, especially something that was going to supposedly evoke Rosemary's Baby vibes and just be a really thrilling, shocking, disturbing look at like maternity of some sort. You know, it's kind of a mysterious plot. I didn't know much from the trailers because they kept it secret. So I was very optimistic going in. Here's my take. Mother, while it does deserve some points for being a very committed take and potential satire on this genre of like the fear of politeness, overall fails at being that thought-provoking, entertaining, or new to the genre, despite the fact that it's aiming high to be all three of those things. So for me, Mother, I guess the biggest issue is that I was surprised how boring it is for 2 hours. It's really kind of like a slow burn film where you're building up to the explosive, super violent ending. But by the time we get to that ending, which I'm not going to spoil here, I'm just kind of deflated. I'm like, what could you possibly do to make my time worth it? And what they do, again, I won't spoil it, is also just like, it's a little obvious. It's a little like trying to get a rise from the audience by being very bloody and visceral. I did a Devil's Advocate review of this movie where, we make it our mission to disagree with Rotten Tomatoes, so I have to purposely tear into it. And I went on and on a lot about, truthfully, this movie feels like the kind of film where, unfortunately, it doesn't work that well on a surface level. It only works because of the symbolism and the central metaphors that it's trying to evoke that you get brought up at the end that you can kind of obviously dissect from this film. That's why it exists. If you took those metaphors away, you wouldn't have that good of a movie because the characters aren't that memorable or relatable, and the progression of plot stuff doesn't make that much sense, and it's not that fun. And all of those criticisms that I made in that video are genuinely kind of how I felt for the most part. I know Evan was really mad leaving this movie, so I'll be interested in seeing what he says his thoughts are when we actually do a sit-down conversation with him, because he's not here right now. He's still in Toronto. But I wasn't as mad during this film. I didn't actually hate it, but I did think overall, after a certain point when the movie kind of showed its hand at what it was going to be for 2 hours, I was like, oh, I really hope something else happens, and it doesn't. It's a little obvious. It's a movie where they're mining tension from the fact that nothing explicitly dangerous or like any threats of malice haven't actually occurred, right? Michelle Pfeiffer's character, she is acting kind of rude and inconsiderate, but she hasn't actually said anything truly terrifying or evil or mean to Jennifer Lawrence. There's just like this sort of weird implicit air of they're overstepping their boundaries. The way they're looking, the way things are happening, it seems from Jennifer Lawrence's perspective like something bad's going to happen. And that sort of fear of these polite characters that you've got in other sort of like home invasion movies and other things like that, I really like. Kind of like the movie Creep, if you've seen that on Netflix, love that film. But at the same time, this movie goes a little bit too quickly in its escalation of their politeness, where you hit that point where it's like any reasonable person would just call the police or just get out of that house. Jennifer Lawrence does not do that earlier enough, and you kind of lose your faith in her as a character. That's my opinion. The one thing I will say that I really did like about this film is It shows an extreme restraint in that it is only in this one house. You never, ever leave the house, which I thought was pretty cool for a movie of this budget with these movie stars. And with that, I kind of found that perhaps Mother was being Darren Aronofsky's kind of self-aware, almost satire of this politeness genre a little bit. The way that things go so over the top, the way that things get so large, grandiose, and violent, and the epic, spectacular spectacle that happens with like this party scene that occurs in this film, and then this riot shit that happens later. That again, I'm not going to spoil exactly what's going on there. It gets so crazy and over the top at a certain point that I kind of was like, oh, is he making fun of movies like Creep? Is he making fun of movies where it's like, how could we let this get this crazy before finally just saying something or calling the police or leaving? Or like Funny Games, the Michael Haneke movie. So for that, since I have a little bit of more faith in Aronofsky than maybe I should at this point in his career, I think that he is knowing, he is being clever and aware with that. And the performances in this movie are really tight. There's no denying that. Javier Bardem, I love that dude. And Jennifer Lawrence is so committed to this role. It's really something to watch. But like I said, overall, it's a thriller that's not that thrilling to me. And I think the metaphors, the things it says about like maternity and about gender roles and stuff like that, are all just, and male ego, are all just like a little obvious. They're a little too similar to the themes that we already ran through on Rosemary's Baby. And then the big like shocking ending of like, oh, you're never gonna sleep again after seeing this horrifying ending. Yes, it's very horrifying. Something very, very violent occurs at the end of this film. However, personally, it's not enough for me. It's a little bit exploitative to just see something really, really, really violent happen at the end, because I'm more of the kind of person where, yes, the whole experience matters, but what about the sum of its parts? And to me, the sum of the parts of Mother is a little bit too slow burn, not necessarily enough payoff for the entire film. But that's just my take. So I'd have to give it like, a 1.5 out of 4, something like that. It's just a little too obvious. Just maybe have a little bit more faith in your audience, Aronofsky. Be a little bit more subtle. Don't go all the way with showing these metaphoric images. Just being as bold and obvious as they are. Although I get that that's your point. I get that that's the aesthetic you're going for in this film. I personally like something that makes you think a little bit harder about what it's about instead of just spoon-feeding you the obvious themes and metaphors. That's my review. Like I said, I'd be curious to hear what you guys thought, because this is a polarizing film. I watched it in a festival audience of just critic and press. It wasn't even the public screening, and industry folks. And they seemed to not really dig it that much. It was a pretty quiet screening. Not many people were interacting with the extreme situations. However, it was like 9 a.m. So did you guys see an exciting screening where the auditorium was actually hyped during it? If so, did that change your experience? Is it actually a fun movie? Or were you like me where it's just kind of boring? I'm curious to see where this goes on Rotten Tomatoes this week. I know it's like 80% now, but I wonder if it'll go down. Anyway, thanks for watching. Subscribe for more reviews. We saw a ton of movies this week at the Toronto Film Festival, and we have all this vlog footage, so we're going to be putting all that stuff up. There will be a lot of movie reviews and thoughts for you to see and check out, so subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you.